you, Kelly. Like Kelly said, my name is Amanda Bobbitt. Yes, Bobbitt. Yes, exactly the thing you're thinking. So I'm married, and I didn't change my name when I got married. I could say I didn't do that for feminist reasons, or I could say maybe I just like planting a little seed of fear in every man that I meet. And isn't that the most feminist reason of all? So doing comedy, I've done a few times now. Laughter and telling jokes myself has been healing, I think, for me. I'm finally able to laugh at the Bobbitt stuff. After one of my performances, a woman came up to me afterwards and said, I know exactly how you feel. My last name is, wait for it, Dahmer. So we joked and laughed about it. We shared horror stories. But as she was walking away, she says, but I didn't change my name when I got married. And I know it's not cool of me to say this, but what a fucking pussy. You gotta own that. So my husband and I met online in 2009, which is 14 years ago, which isn't really that long ago, but in internet years, that's a lifetime ago. I don't know if anyone remembers the internet from 2009. It was different. We had Facebook. It was just kind of new. Everyone was starting it. We were more obsessed with just gaining as many friends as we could and poking each other virtually and farming for some reason. It was a weird time. And Twitter was also new, and I kind of miss the days that if you didn't use Twitter, you didn't have to hear about Twitter. You could just ignore Twitter. Sorry, X. We're not calling it that though, right? The biggest difference I would say from 2009 till now is smartphones. They were brand new back then. Not everyone was using them. So obviously they're everywhere. We're all addicted. So internet dating was a lot different back then. Everything you did was web-based, no apps. So you had to sit down and write your long profile. You had to sit down and read those long profiles. Everything you did on the internet, you did sitting down, not walking around it. As you're making your profile, you have to choose your best photos, of course. And you don't have 1,000 selfies to choose from like you do now. You've got maybe 14 pictures from one night out with your friends where you look really cute. Use that photo, crop your friends out, or maybe don't, just leave them in, leave them guessing. Tinder and Bumble and Grindr, those came much later, and I think that the swiping culture is very cruel. You can just reject people while you're literally in line for coffee. Just reject humans. I think that internet dating is pretty much just shopping for people. You're sorting by size, color, shape, whether you're admitted or not, hoping that when your package comes, it looks like the picture and then none of the parts are defective. So my husband and I met on a site called Plenty of Fish. And yes, there were plenty of fish, but I gotta say, that pool was diseased and kind of shallow. It could have also been called Plenty of Dans, because somehow everybody that I met was named Dan. I was starting to think it was just a pseudonym people were using. So of course I had to give them all nicknames when I told my friends about them. Let's see, there was Farmer Dan, Library Dan, Piano Dan, Boat Dan, French Dan, Pilot Dan, Boring Dan, and Trenchcoat Dan. By Dan number 4, I was losing my goddamn mind. Of course, I met my husband on Plenty of Fish, but his name isn't Dan. He has a much more cool, unique name. Matt, take a bow. We actually kept that fish theme going for a wedding a few years later and held a reception at an aquarium. There was a little miscommunication with a cousin of ours, though, or of my husband's, and he seemed to think that he'd be seeing a Grammy Award-winning singer Seal at our wedding, which is absurd because it was a sea lion show. I know people get those two mixed up a lot. And that's crazy because we didn't have Kiss from a Rose money. We barely had Kiss from a sea lion money. All we got was a photo with them afterwards. So I'm out of the dating game obviously now, but one thing I'm thankful I didn't have to deal with, which everybody does now if they're online, is dick pics. No smartphones meant no dick pics. So imagine the process, if you will, of sending a dick pic in 2009. So this very confident man thinks that what he has needs to be seen by everybody. He sets up his camera, gets his Nikon Coolpix out with a 10 optical zoom, gets his mirror selfie ready, takes a photo. Sorry, there's flash, better do that again. Take one more to be safe. And where's that data cord? Just plugs it into the camera, plugs the other end into the burning hot laptop that he has. That's taking too long, sorry. Gets a card out, gets his card reader, puts that in instead. When his photos finally load, goes through the folders, grabs the JPEG that he needs, moves it over to the desktop, launches his web browser, Goes to plentyoffish.com, types in his very easy to remember password, truck nuts. Opens the messages, and launches one to any woman, doesn't matter who. So uploads his photo. That takes long enough that he should be reconsidering by now, but he doesn't. He types "hey" to go along with this masterpiece and hits send. But it's 2009, and she doesn't have a smartphone. Her little Nokia with a keyboard doesn't do the internet. And have you seen data charges? My God. So when she gets home from work, she sits down at a computer and goes on the internet, which is the thing we had to do back then instead of just being on the internet all the time. So she sits down. She sees that she has an email from Plenty of Fish saying that Hot Dan 69 sent her a message. So she goes to plentyoffish.com, she logs in, opens her messages, and there it is in all its glory. 2 megapixels, 5 inches, on her 17-inch desktop screen. Delete. Nobody was going through all those steps back then. That's wild. Although now I say it, maybe some people were. Maybe some people were just doing that 10 times, because online dating is obviously a numbers game. It took him an hour to do that 10 times, but he did. I must say though, if I were online dating in this era, I think to get as a deterrent for all the dick pics, I'd probably just use my real name as a username, because nobody is sending their dick pics to A. Bobbitt. Thank you.